Welcome back to Joyfully at Home. This week we're going to make something that I make all the time in our house. It's pretty much a staple. We make it quite often, at least once a week, it seems. Um, I'm going to show you how to make these are mini Italian style loaves of bread. They're wonderful. They're not a huge loaf of bread. They're small in size. It does make two. And you can put one in the freezer, wrap it, put it in the freezer if you like. They're great for an Italian dinner. They're wonderful if you're making something like Texas toast. They work perfectly for something like that. So today we're going to go ahead and show you how to make these. They're super simple, and you can have Italian bread at your disposal pretty much anytime you want it. Again, making your own bread is really simple. I've gone ahead and mastered this over the years, but it's one of those things that with a little practice, you can make your own bread at home anytime you want it. I actually have a bread course now that shows you the basics of how to start off making your own white bread. This is a similar recipe with just a few minor differences. That is available if you want to check that out. But today we'll start off with our mini Italian style loaves. You're going to start off with 12 ounces, which is a cup and a half of warm water. You're going to want your water to be about 110 degrees on that. You're going to have 2 teaspoons of salt, a tablespoon of oil. You can have olive oil, vegetable oil, whichever you prefer. Next, you're going to add 4.5 cups of all-purpose flour. Now, if you have bread flour, you can use that as well. Either work fine with this, I find. Bread flour will give you a slightly chewier crust, but this also works very, very well for this. It's a pretty forgiving recipe. So to the side, not on top of our flour, we're going to add 2 tablespoons of honey. This is where we give our food for our yeast. Your yeast needs a little bit of a sugar to rise, and it gives it a distinct, just ever so slight sweet flavor. Not enough to say it's sweet, but just a very distinct flavor. More so than you would with sugar. So to the side of your flour, you'll do that. Next, right about in the center of your flour, just create a small well, and you'll put in a tablespoon of dry yeast. That's all there is to it. At this point, we're going to go ahead and turn on our mixer, and we're going to start on slow, just so your flour doesn't make a mess, and then you can increase your speed until you get a nice dough ball. Now, if you don't have a stand mixer, you can do this in a hand mixer as well with a dough hook attachment, just as easily done with that. The only difference between a hand mixer and a stand mixer is with one of these, it will do your kneading for you. With a hand mixer, you're just gonna go ahead and put your dough out onto the counter, hand knead that for about 10 minutes. With a stand mixer, once your ingredients are all mixed together, you let it go for 5 minutes. That does the kneading for you. So we're gonna go ahead and get this mixed up and get our dough ball ready to rise. So now you can see your dough is ready. I've pulled my bowl off. Take your dough hook and just pull that right out of your dough. Comes out very easily. And you just get a nice cohesive ball, and that is going to be 2 loaves of bread. You see it has a nice stretch to it already, and it's nicely kneaded and incorporated. We're going to just give our bowl a little spray, and just take your dough ball and give it a quick spray on the top to keep it nice and moist. Then we're going to go ahead and set this in a nice warm place to let this rise until it's about doubled. Then we can shape our loaves and get them ready for the oven. Now that your dough is completely risen, you'll see it's got a really nice rise on it. It's nice and soft. You're going to go ahead and you're going to turn that right out onto your counter. Make sure If you need a little extra flour, you can do that at this point. You may not need that for this dough because it's not a terribly sticky dough. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to cut this into 2 portions. If you prefer, you can go ahead and weigh each portion. I generally kind of eyeball it unless I'm trying to be really, really specific, but you basically just split it in half. And that will give you your 2 separate loaves. So now we just go ahead and basically punch down that rise, but it's more of a rectangular shape that you're going to want. And then you're going to go ahead and you're just going to take and start rolling that, pinching it in with your fingers until you get a roll such as this. Now it looks kind of wonky, so you just keep tightening this up with your fingers and just keep tightening, tucking and tightening until you get a nice smooth loaf. You're going to take this, place it right on a piece of parchment paper while you form your second loaf. You'll do that very same thing with your second piece of your dough. So now that we have our other loaf here, you want to make sure that they've got a good 2 to 3 inches between them so they can rise. Now we're going to go ahead and let them rise again until they're about doubled again, which will take about a half an hour. We'll let them rise and then we'll show you the finishing touches before they head to the 425-degree oven. Now that your mini loaves have risen, they're about twice the size as they were when we went ahead and formed our loaves. We're just going to take a nice sharp knife and go crossways on them. Give them those little slits that will help them to rise nicely in the oven. Do that. We're going to go ahead and brush them with a little bit of egg wash, which is just simply a full egg that has just been thinned down a little bit with a few tablespoons of water. So your egg wash is very simple. You just beat the water and egg together to make it a little bit thinner. And we'll just brush the entire surface just gently with our egg wash, making sure that we go ahead and get it completely covered. And what your egg wash will do is it'll give you a nice golden crust, and it will give your breads a really lovely crust texture, a nice crisp but yet chewy texture to your crust. So it's a wonderful thing for these little mini Italian loaves. Now that we have that all set, then our final touch that I like to do is just a little bit of pink Himalayan sea salt. We just give the tops just a very light sprinkle of that just enhances the flavor of your bread. And now they're ready for the oven. Again, we'll put them in at 425 degrees for 30 minutes, and they will be beautifully golden, shiny crusted mini Italian loaves.